Good afternoon. This is Tom Hunt with the Arkansas HVACR Association. And as always, we have Tony Woodard, who's the Chief Inspector for the Mechanical Division of Labor and Licensing. He's our person we go to when we need a final decision on issues. One of the things that we're going to be talking about today is exhaust on your bath and your clothes dryer. We've covered this just a little bit, but there's also a final decision that Tony came out with the other day. We need to make sure everyone has a chance to see it. Tony, welcome to the program.
Wow, glad to be here, Tom.
I'm kind of laughing because of final decision, because these things do take a little while to finally work out the details of, don't they?
Yes, sir. And some folks' feelings get hurt. And once all that gets passed and moved on, we put our big boy britches on and boot on our bootstraps and move forward.
Yeah. Well, before we get into that, it's pretty important that we make sure everybody remembers that we are in this first round of continuing education expos across the state. You'll also probably be seeing several of your distributors across the state having continuing education as well. In fact, let me say this. It's super important to realize that the association is kind of leading out here with these expos, but we can only touch the surface. The big responsibility is on the shoulders of the distributors and manufacturers across the state, who will let you know when they have programs. They'll be able to tell you the number for the CEU on that. Remember, you got to have 2 hours of code and 2 hours of technical, or you can have 4 hours of code, just however it works out for you. But it's coming along really well. And Tony, we really appreciate the help that you gave up in Fort Smith and that Lindsay gave us down in Camden.
I want to say a quick point to that for though, if we have any of those distributors that are listening, because we're new at this and we're learning as well. When you design your program, and we kind of failed to mention this, please design some type of either a digital certificate or, it's really easy for what we're saying to do a digital certificate that you can email to each participant, because when they renew next year, there will be an upload button, and that's what will have the number on. They'll just upload that. Simple as that. And it'll stop them from having to keep paperwork as well. So I just wanted to mention that.
Super important. Those that attended our expo in Fort Smith and in Camden will be getting a paper certificate. Let's see, the mail was closed today, so we'll put it in the mail tomorrow. So hopefully by the end of the week, you'll be getting that. And then we've got to work out a little something with our software that I need to learn so that we can automatically send you what Tony just mentioned, which is the digital certificate. So you'll have it on file to be able to use when you get ready to renew. Remember that you've got to have that continuing education. And when you go buy stuff from, your distributor, ask them when they're going to start offering some classes. The thing we're in right now is we just came out of the summertime and everybody was knee deep in alligators. So people are just now having an opportunity to think about how to get all this done. And for those of you that are renewing, say, the second quarter of 23, you're in great shape. For those of you that are going to renew in the first quarter of 23, you kind of need to come to these expos or get with your distributors and make sure that that's going to get taken care of quickly. And I'm going to run through this just really quick. Tony, I want to save you, if I can, for the smart stuff back when we get over to talking about the exhaust. That way we can run through this in a hurry. The continuing education applies to everybody that's got an A, B, C, D, or E license. You don't have, the question is, what if you don't have a business? The answer is, if you are working for yourself or somebody else, if you have an A, B, C, D, or E license, you got to have continuing education, and you got to have it every year. You'll be able to get it from your distributor, your manufacturer, the local college. I'm really hoping that the colleges begin to step up and start doing it as well. They sure want to. Training programs in person, online, through the association. There's all kinds of opportunities that are out there. Our next expo is this coming Thursday in Springdale. So if you're in Northwest Arkansas and hearing this and you haven't signed up for that, jump on it. The price is cheap and we'd love to have you there. We're going to run through this. Tony, got to have duct leakage testing beginning January 1. I've rattled too long. We're going to run over here and get with what is important to this program. And that's right here where we start talking about bathroom exhaust venting.
Okay, bathroom exhaust venting. That right there is a no-no. Now, in that application, what you're looking at is a horizontal application. It went over and back for some reason. I guess it couldn't get right to the soffit right in front. This will be a final decision. We are approved with ASHRAE, ICC. We will be allowed to go to the soffit, but in the horizontal application, it will go hard pipe, hook to the appliance, over to the soffit. And if you have a termination kit that terminates through the top, you will be allowed to use a class 1. That's not rated a class 1 duct. There are a few of the silver flexible that is rated class 1. You'll be allowed to use that to drop down to attach to your termination kit. I think further in the slide program here, Tom does show some that are already designed to be attached in a horizontal application, but going horizontal, it will be 28 gauge duct pipe only. Now, if you decide in this picture, say you decide to come up 4 foot there and terminate to the roof, you will go hard pipe above the insulation level. And then if you needed to use a flexible connector to go to a termination kit, you can. That is acceptable. But once we're strictly horizontal, that's hard pipe all the way to the soffit. They learned that the insulation, data communication wire, mice, rats, whatever, they were collapsing these things, and it wasn't really necessarily the soffit. It was the fact that air was never getting over there. So all the states, ICC, we all come to agreement. Well, we'll do a hard pipe all the way to the side. That'll work better for the builder, the consumer, the contractor. And also, this is where we need to put our fresh air mechanical intake. We'll just move 10 feet down, put it in that location, designed like that, and everybody be happy.
Hey, Tony, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here because I'm trying to figure out why they went to the trouble to go over about 2 runs of those rafters instead of just running them straight out.
I'm trying to figure that one out myself. I know I sent you this picture.
Yeah.
I don't quite understand why they went that way, unless maybe they ran the flex up there begin with or something. I don't know. I don't quite understand that one either.
In a little bit, we're going to talk about the distance, and I know this is true on the dryer vent. Is it also true on the bathroom exhaust that it's got to be at least 3 feet away from like a window or a door or something?
Yes, they deemed bath exhaust. They took the 10 foot away from a window or door because now they've deemed it environmental air, and it can be as close.
Okay, now let me back up again. It can be within, it's got to be at least 3 feet away from the window or the door. 3 feet,
Correct.
is that right? Okay.
Right.
All right. The only reason I ask about this,
Well, operable window. So
okay.
Think about this. This is a bathroom, and if we have one of those shaded out windows that they put in there that's not operable at all, they could terminate right over top of it. So it's an operable window.
I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt on this, and it be an operable window right
Could
there
be.
if you went straight out and they moved it down, but that may be a bit much too.
Well, that could have been. We can. Now, if you look at that, that's a class 1 flexible duct, horizontal. They pulled that so nice, so tight, went all the way under there, went to the soffit, and it's a fine job. There's nothing wrong. It's just in this situation, we will have to be hard pipe in that configuration right there.
So
and then that will be the class 1 duct that's allowed to go from the soffit down to your termination kit.
okay, so now is this the horizontal pipe you're talking about?
That's
right
the
there?
horizontal flex running
Okay.
right there. It looks like
Okay, so it's flex,
Yeah, that's flex.
but it's got to be hard pipe.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That was
I
a fine job. It just that's changed to hard pipe now.
Got you.
That's the same picture. That's just a different angle of it in the same.
Okay.
Picture.
Here was the letter that you sent out to several people, and I wanted to emphasize here that it's the final decision on bath and dryer exhaust, and it's effective the 1st of the year, January 1. It comes from the IMC and the IRC. So what is it? Tony, jump in here.
Okay, that will be the bathroom exhaust. What we just discussed. To a lot of heartburn from the builder side was when they first brought the code out. If you read chapter 15 of the IRC, it just clearly tells you you're not going to do the soffit. And then we got an interpretation by ICC. Then they went and read it and said, nope, we will allow the soffit to go through. It will be a ducted exhaust through the soffit and not just sit there and hang out. And where we learned that our issue was not necessarily soffit, it was that we weren't getting the air over there. It was the flexible connectors collapsing. So that's when they came up to the 28 gauge,
Okay.
all the way over to give you the flexible to term out. And this is approved. And I'm working with Gary Kirk. He's the same. He's my mirror image over in Oklahoma, chief inspector over there. We're trying to get in with Texas. We're trying to make our surrounding states on the same page here, guys, with everybody. So if you're on a border town and you're going from one to the other, it should be consistent.
Okay, I think I understand this. So if you're going through the soffit, you've got to come up with metal. You got to have a metal elbow.
Correct.
And then you can attach to it that class 1 rated flexible duct.
That's correct.
Right?
That's right.
12 to 18 inches. But if you're running several feet back toward the actual,
no.
Then it's got to be metal, right?
Right. You're hard piping all the way over to the soffit. You're going to get out of the insulated blown area. You're going to be hard pipe all the way over to there. So the inspectors will be looking for that on rough end.
So now can you transition into the soffit 12 to 18 inches with flexible duct right out of the metal?
Yes. You
Okay.
will be able to put a band on that and they crimped in, allow the flow, and it can turn down. If it's going to be real sharp turn, then they're going to have to put a hard mechanical 90 on there. If they can softly turn it to where we don't obstruct more than 4% of that, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. It falls under the flexible standards of 4% deviations, all we're allowed. Now, guys, that's half-inch bend. That's not much. So that's a good point.
It'd just be so much easier just to automatically put that elbow on there and
it
then
would
attach. That way you don't have to worry about it.
It will be. And I think further in the slide, you showed one that could attach straight horizontal in. It was a very good termination.
All right.
Yes, the termination kit. So it's what's approved. Now that Gibraltar, that's a high end. You won't hear it. It's fancy. It's Applebee's. It's fancy like. So yeah, I'm sorry, couldn't resist that. The GAF and some of the others, they're dying. You will have that collar that'll extend up in there to bring that flex down at least 2 inches. You want on there a 2-inch band, not the band, 2 inches of the flexible product with a good banding strap on there. And then we've got a solid transition duct all the way to the termination. And those are examples. So we're not talking about an increase, the $10 one, and that's based if you bought them independently. You could buy them in case quantity and probably get them for $6 or $7 a piece. There's some others that have attachments, and they make these in all kinds of colors to match the siding as well.
Here's a drawing that I got from one of those. I believe it was the Gibraltar that you were just talking about there.
Yes, and it's got where you can come straight into it. It's a good product. It's a real good product. And then they make these termination kits on that where, I mean, man, it can be from a Texas limestone to whatever you want for aesthetics. Sure can.
So back up here, if you use this one, and this was in the soffit, sticking up into the soffit, and you put a metal elbow on that, you could then attach 12 to 18 inches of flex on that, and then transition over to the metal horizontal pipe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Here's a picture of that Gibraltar as it's being installed.
That's right. Yeah, that's a nice one. It's quiet. It blows out it good, and no back up the backdraft and everything. And again, I think it's all how you buy them. You can get them pretty affordable, but they work great. They really do.
Now look at that flexible pipe there.
But you don't see a band on it, do you?
No, don't see a band, and it doesn't. Is that class?
I don't believe that's a class 1.
I don't. I mean, it's their picture, but it doesn't look. When I looked at that, I thought, Tony's not going to like that one.
I think I can see the OSB through the flex duct all the way up through the backside there.
You can.
Now, if they can provide us a class 1 rating with that product, we'd have to allow it. But I don't think you're going to get it on that one.
Now, here's a copy of what you sent me that shows one of these already installed.
That's the draw, already installed, works great. It's got the other backup screen on it. That's the higher end one. And it's got the trim kit to where it matches your siding. They can get them in multiple colors with the little trim kits there.
Okay, I want to focus on the detail here just a minute. I'd probably not code, But I noticed they've got the fins on that where the air is going to be blowing back against the siding. Wouldn't it be better if it was blowing out, or am I confused here?
Yeah, it probably would be. We just want it out. We will pass that.
Like I said,
outside. Yeah.
I don't think it's code. I'm just
Yeah.
kind of scratching my head why they did it that way. And anyway, that's what I'm talking about there.
I got you.
Kind of a quick review.
Yep, the gable end is acceptable where, you know, you might have it to where your exhaust, say the Brown one, if you use the Brown bath exhaust, they're 7 or some of them are 8-inch deep exhaust fan to where they can actually terminate. They're high enough up above, you can turn it where they're above your roof joist and it could just set right on there and run straight out the gable end. That will be acceptable as well. Will be hard pipe. Unless you're going to come hard piping and go up above the insulation level and get up into a level, the flexible connector in that point, but it's got to be where it's down, laying on the rafter. That's hard pipe. That was the ruling. That's hard pipe.
It's kind of an aside here that's worth talking about.
The termination kit may differ in flow of direction. Yeah, it could. It really could.
Well, I like this because if they're talking about bringing in mechanical fresh air, making that look good, and you know, it's, and as long as your damper shut in the right direction or wasn't there to keep the air from coming in.
With that said, if you're a multi-family dwelling contractor, 3-story and above, there is an exception in our code where this plays. There is a product. And if you have the commentary, if you've actually bought the IMC commentary, in the commentary is a pictorial of it, and it shows it is a 2-pipe. It is a intake termination all in one. But the caveat and the exception to that is you're going to be 25 foot above grade. So you're up in the sky.
Yeah.
All right. You're going to be you're going to be allowed to take these intakes and termination. So picture you a 3-story building, and you have a fire separation assembly wall from front apartment to back apartment, and everybody's bath and dryer exhaust is going horizontal out one of these walls. That's why they'll allow that kit there, but you've got to read that in depth. Now that's a 25-foot rule above grade so that all those can terminate way up there. So there's no nuisance or sucking, you know, any carbon monoxide, car fumes, anything like that in there. And they are very pricey.
Where does the dryer vent now?
Yes, dryer vent in the slab. We can allow it in the slab. You can do it in the slab. It can be metal, but it has to be an approved coating type metal. So those of y'all that have started studying what we're doing with the SEER 2 new units that you see, they're doing a coated aluminum condensing coil. I guess they finally found something that dog urine will not eat through. I'm going to wait and leave my judgment for that till we see what happens with that. Because I know from experience, if you got some dogs and they're hitting it every day, you got about a year and it'll eat right through that. It's going to. They do say it's corrosive. So they make a 28 gauge product that has got some type of coating. I can't remember what it was, Tom. I think it was called Kylon, but they make one. Contractor out of Tennessee did call me and says that he can run that at about $3 a foot. When he buys enough, he still likes to run them in the slab, and he's got a 4-inch metal product that has a coating on it. And he buys enough, and all his houses, he wants to keep them in the slab. But he's also building an area where the minimum of a 5-block high foundation to where they can come out and still be a foot above grade.
I just can't imagine all the work when you're reading code and what all you got to do to make sure that you're putting in the right gravel or whatever substrate and all of that. That's a lot like work. Would be so much easier if the house was designed with the dryer and the mechanical room there on the outside of the
yes, sir. Yeah, that should be code. You got that's my code there.
So you covered this. Got to be at least 12 inches above grade, 3 feet from an operable door, and it's got to be inspected before the concrete is poured.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Another inspection. They'll do that on the footer inspection of the plumbing. So it needs to be installed at that point. Sure do.
That kind of takes us to the end of this topic. hopefully this final decision is pretty clear. Everybody understands what they need to do. One of the things I always like to say is that understanding and knowing what code wants you to do is so helpful and profitable for you because it's very expensive to redo. So this is one of the reasons that we do these. We want it to help the consumer so they don't have to be frustrated with it. And another reason we want it to help the contractor so they don't make mistakes and wind up costing them a lot of money. If you've got any questions or compliments or complaints about what these programs say or code related issues, call 501-682-9201. Is that still the right number?
That is, and we got two chat questions real quick.
Yes, sir.
Screws in the hard pipe. That's a very good question. Yes, that is acceptable now. No more than 1/8 inch penetration. Duradyne, Malco, they're bringing back a lot of the 3/8 zip ins. That is acceptable. They want you to screw the pipe together now, screw it, then put your tape over it.
One of the things that we did not cover here that we've covered in the past is that if you're running over 35 feet, and that's equivalent feet, which is the measured length plus the length, the equivalent length of the fittings, you're going to have to do something about it unless the installation instructions on the dryer tell you it's okay, which means basically you're going to have to put in an approved dryer booster vent. Did I say that right?
No, power ventilator. Boosters have been prohibited. Yes.
Yeah, because they're real clear about making sure we don't use the terminology booster. They want it to be powered what?
Power ventilator. And it's only one UL. It's a UL 705, about $396 a watt.
Tony, we're up again next month, 14th of November.
Awesome. I don't know what we'll talk about, but something will come up. I promise you.
Yeah, Tony, I appreciate you. I appreciate the Department of Labor and Licensing and all the folks over there that make these programs possible. If it were not for their attitude of serving the industry, we wouldn't have these. One last thought. Didn't you tell me that you got some other people around the country that are looking at doing things like this?
Yes, we do. Gary Kirk, I've mentioned it to the Oklahoma side. They have some pre-recorded type things, but as far as how we do it live, there's some other entities thinking about it, and it's a good program. I mean, I've gotten nothing but good positive feedback from it because there's the good feedback and the feedback that we get from this of how you utilize it, because it makes it worth it. You know, it's not that manpower, it's the fact that we are doing something to make the industry better, and we hear it. That's a good thing. It keeps us moving forward.
We will send out an email here this afternoon to let you know how to reconnect to this via YouTube. Send it out to your employees and to your competitors, your friends, your colleagues in the area. We feel like that we're getting a lot of response via YouTube, Tony. But until next month, thanks a bunch. We hope to see you at the Lunch and Learn in a month. We also hope to see you at the expos that we have across the state between now and then. Tony, thanks a bunch. We're going to sign off.
All right. Thank you, Tom.